Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Millett, and this is the quarantine stream. This is the 39th one. Hope you're all okay out there, staying safe. Let us hear the ever lovely, ever beautiful, ever wonderful, ever green quarantine stream theme, shall we? Beautiful. All right. Hope you're all doing okay out there. This is one from many years ago. Well, not many years ago, a few years ago. It's called Diamond Mine. Water rushing so fast it looks like knotted wood. Its sound a ceaseless perpetual crash, in static blue and black. Droplets burst over the plank sides and dot the dirt or land on kicked out bricks, and from the ravine's opposite angle, the water seems to glide clockwise, rolling ever nearer toward the gears and into the factory where 7 years previous the core of the industry sunk unexpectedly early, and like a defense attorney the treasurer ruled the materials used were archaic and their methods unrealistic, and as demand seized up, the foreman and night shift technicians acidly joked they were laboring within the Great Repression. For ages it seemed like the beams from the afternoon sun wouldn't come, but we later learned the view was obscured from a flood started from the diamond mine. We know it's either tacitly implied or we're told outright. You can't be seen like that. You need lights. When money is exchanged and you're finally responsible and realistic, you can't be seen like that. You need lights. Know the value of being articulate and reconsider your obscure subject. You need to stay in the lines. You need to revise. Realize the need to eliminate images that would be unwise to present or ideas you'd be unable to defend. Why persist if honest people cannot implicitly understand? You can't be seen like that. You need lights. For years it seemed like the beams from the afternoon sun wouldn't come, but we later learned the view was obscured from a flood that started in the diamond mine. Back in the head office, on the desk next to the coffee, scissors, and gold pen set, was a black leather envelope in that morning's newspaper whose subheadline read, "Forget Forgetfulness," and detailed a local photographer who makes elaborate, enormous, near-twin gelatin prints of events, one real, one staged, and described the effect as painting over paintings. When asked by the reporter, "Who will get this?" the photographer remarked, "Anyone who misses being pure, or ever imagined placing one point in time over another. Anyone who pictures the shape of ideas and not the shape of their mind. Anyone who sees a crowd and tries to find the people in disguise." Later, the paper lay open to the crossword puzzle, and among answers written in indeterminate script were asides like, "Does purpose follow appearance? Where is this from? Reasons better than because," and finally, determining what to become. And this is, we have a big historic event coming tomorrow. And we have an equally big historic event, what was it, about 2 weeks ago. And the fallout from that is incredible. They didn't ruin Martin Luther King Day. Apparently nobody showed up, so I don't know if that was a prank or not, but to any of the people who were going around 2 weeks ago, being what they are, what they have always been, and what they've been taught to be, what can you really say for them or about them? This is dedicated to them, however. This is called Sympathy for the Cowboy. Sympathy for the Cowboy, all alone on the range. After the war ended, he was forced to change his name. Sympathy for the cowboy, holding his dying brother who begged with his last breath, "Tell mother I died with honor." Sympathy for the meth lab and all who fight in harm's way, who hope to abolish minimum wage and charge only $15 a day. Sympathy for modern times and those who argue that they're right. Sympathy for the victim who already has all the laws on their side. Sympathy for the student who's only lived in theory in a hammer and sickle t-shirt, walking away from the barricade. Sympathy for the student and all who fought for reform. Sympathy for the bumper sticker telling you to be reborn. Sympathy for the stallion running free and too wild to ride. Sympathy for the guy who tried, his wife cried, him and his foolish pride. Sympathy for the strawberry and the trial separations, press releases pleading for privacy, and doing it for the kids. Sympathy for the nihilist, sucking on his cigarette, cutting you off in traffic, no constraints of guilt or regret. Sympathy for the stalker on his computer outside, looking at pictures of you in high school, saving each one, even if it takes him all night. Sympathy for the cowboy, whose son moved off the ranch, said he might be coming back soon, if there's no change of plans. This is a newer one. This is called Lazy Angels. Squat woman sealed in a shadow frock, trimmed in white, absence of light, selling stories from her garden that she demands are heard, but is greeted with the silence of the crowd's indifference. She doesn't already know that we can breathe and we can leave. She can't see that we already can walk through doors and open windows. Counterfeit prophet steals the locks. Illegal son, 0 is 1. Selling pictures of her dinner, her guards are obliged to buy, even as her art collection is vanishing, until the walls have nothing left hanging. She doesn't already understand that we can perceive and we can receive. She can't see that we can paint flowers with any colors that we can imagine. Their far and distant minds are trails best left behind. Sister to her father stops the drain under a rotting stage, 6-month wage, selling reports carefully whispered in hopes her wealthy relatives will let her sign their wills first. She doesn't already know that we are her, twice as much or more, a complete verse. She can't see the red and gold bird flying right above. She can't see that we are her, twice as much or more. She can't see that she hands her keys to a steed who gallops away, away into the orange rolling hills. Orange rolling hills. Okay, good. Beautiful. Excuse me. Jesus. Disgusting. Wild night out there. This is called Two Franciscan Nuns. Chewing mint leaves while crossing the Calumet River, the paper mill's exhaust pipes interrupt the vista. Mules waited with surge protectors, hairspray and cassettes, a riverboat of morphine-addicted ghosts over there on the left. Two Franciscan nuns wanted to build a hospital, but settled for organizing games of chance. In their hotel rooms, they squeeze out extra acidic orange juice and excommunicate people with unpleasant names from the phone book. Two Franciscan nuns helped decorate an admiral in the pensioner's home after he'd misplaced his uniform. They blessed his pills, kissed his parakeet, and as he slept, gathered sets of his false teeth to sell at the swap meet. A brain with blood and oxygen is better than a fish who talks. What some people see as skin discoloration is in fact the natural pigmentation when viewed from the inside. Some newspapermen have always known this, and indeed, they have nothing to hide. All right, this next one is called Sunspots. is one called Rubber Buttons. It needs to be kept simmering, and time should flow slowly and quietly. Let's go! My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me as much as I love to see a basket of swimming snowflakes. My shoelaces are undone, so I throw them next to a trunk full of styrofoam tongues, and the person who brought them yells, "Thank you!" The first person in the castle has the obvious advantage if they wish to scrape their fingernails against century-old windows. They can concentrate vacantly while being unfailingly polite and insisting their hands are made of the same sand as found outside on the beach. They know there is no joy in failure for their friends, and that the fun and restoration happens once the work is done. The second person in the castle has obvious ease, with boldly seizing treasure only they can see through a fizzing camera lens. They can research quietly while having no qualms about their ambition outstripping their abilities in assessing gaudy antiques. They know there is no lemon rich enough in sourness to let their taste get challenged into swallowing insects and soiled tents. The third person in the castle has the obvious edge when turning their profile to the east and in hopes of repairing a table leg. They can dutifully saw and sweep the dust into the bin until the bell sounds for them to begin slicing vegetables in the kitchen. They know there is no crack deep enough to keep them from molding jellies into a series of perfectly semi-translucent wedges. I want brass buttons for my cousin, because when I could not count for cufflinks, they counted for me. Because when I could not look for light bulbs, they looked for me. Because when I could not dance for diamonds, they danced for me. They realized the chateau has the clear advantage as the place to evaluate flashy antiques. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make rubber buttons to wear for myself. While I sew, I look at the library and remember each of my most memorable finds. I want brass buttons for my cousin, but I make the rubber buttons I wear on my jacket. I buy the materials from the tan-toothed man who sold my mom a gold wishing box. I want brass buttons for my cousin, because when I preach with the collar, it preaches with me. I want brass buttons for my cousin, because when I move with the minnows, they move with me. They realize the chateau has the clear advantage for when you're evaluating flashy antiques. Let's go! Well, that's all right. My shoelaces are undone, so I only walk sideways and photograph a plum purple terracotta planter with a flag with a price tag sticking out of it. It's hard to know. My shoelaces are undone, which means someone likes me as much as I love wearing an apricot ascot while hearing stories about Korean camping sites. The first person in the tower can brighten their senses by energetically exchanging sunglasses and hairstyles once safely ensconced at the top. They can cheerfully sing along with anything, though they prefer Caruso and ragtime to songs they don't know. There is usually a fixed point in the distance for them to focus on things such as a helicopter or hawk taking off shortly after dawn. The second person in the tower can loudly shout, "How I love my girl!" which echoes back so overwhelmingly they can think that they're in a private booth. They can detect the scent of her shampoo in the wind and look down to see her looking up and running towards them. There is normally an iron staircase nailed in 40 years ago, which serves as the one modern addition to the edifice. The third person in the tower can tell endless jokes over dinner about the rabbits they saw nipping chocolate from their mother's purses. They can wear a lei around their necks, which contrasts sharply with their pinstripe sport coat and tartan flat cap. There is always a sauna where they can fall asleep underneath a slippery painting of their father dressed up as a captain. My shoelaces are undone. They lay under the warmth of the sun. This is a true depiction, recited with excellent diction. Let's go! And now I recall other memories. From walking around outside the castle, the humidity kept at bay, clouds letting loose only hints of rain, and vines intertwining across each other, and each new flower that blooms another gift for the dozens of bees in love with the newness of June. It's all on top of my eyes. The curious sage in an orange and brown dashiki, standing before a statue of the stripped Christ, arms open and hovering. All on top of my eyes. Lithium batteries in between her teeth. She holds a screwdriver dipped in green paint as she walks over underground cables. All on top of my eyes, in between her toes. She staves off headaches with gallons of water and sleeping when she can. All on top of my eyes. The swells of excitement are just one continued drone. Close concert of ideas. Stretching fingers. You did a great job today. Devoted. Seriously. All on top of my eyes. One wonder. One today. How are we doing out there? Doing good? Beautiful. This is put out a book a few years ago. This is called Pearls. from Salt or Light, for anyone who fancies that one. There had been a robbery in her apartment. The dentist dabbed at the blood dripping off his drill and said, "That was a lot more than I expected." They had hit Carrie's place while she slept. The cops spent the early hours of her asking her questions, like did she have any enemies, perhaps somebody in her family. They told her to screen her calls, implored her to invest in some security. Ultimately, the only items taken of value were a few pieces of jewelry. Bankers' boxes were duct taped shut and loaded in the truck, their contents filled with scrap to go and get melted down by guys who didn't care whether it came from an abandoned ironworks or was brass stolen from a Catholic school. Gregory never thought it would come to this. The ranch was facing foreclosure. He'd gotten a wedge of glass jammed into his hand, and his girlfriend had spent $25 she didn't have on an ugly antique horseshoe she hung upside down in the doorway. "I should have known when we were standing at your mother's grave that you wouldn't speak any longer. I should have known when we were standing at your mother's grave, walled in a cold fog." Gregory looked down at the 4 inches of stained skin on his left forearm and thought what that symbol had meant to him when he was 18, and then how gutted he felt when he noticed the girl at the bank had the same thing on her ankle. While the detective tried to focus on the negatives from the crime scene, intently scanning for details he might otherwise miss, but he was distractedly irritated by the accidental double exposures and dark splotches of silver salts on his fingertips. "I used to walk much quicker and look over my shoulder. Now I no longer worry. I used to walk much quicker, but now I have been absolved of responsibility." There was a beautiful storm last night that disrupted the 90-degree heat and blocked out the 6 p.m. sun, the smell of mud running over the fresh blacktop, icy rain that came like the crest of a wave, cutting short the humidity, my clothes and hair getting drenched, the holes in the soles of my shoes letting the water soak my feet, as I walked in circles across the nearly empty lot. This is Canary Milk. Sweltering sun in the forecast, but it's raining right now. Retired teens nostalgic for holograms as their granddads watch rocks roll around on the ground and wonder when they can be farmers in glass pods on Mars. While Amanda eats factory fresh candies and laughs jaggedly at vulgar stories. The boy who awoke in the toy aisle one evening moved more elegantly than his mother had ever seen, as he picked items off a well-worn, folded list before deciding he'd rather have a pet eel instead, while Amanda watches her neighbors bickering and daydreams deleted scenes from their past. The delivery man is ready for the weekend as he ignores reports on the European heat wave, instead marveling about the new house on his route and how much it must cost each month to keep the swans fed and the water in the lagoon fresh. While Amanda feels no urgency to call back her agency and laughs at people voluntarily photographing their chores. This is another new one. This is Windy Sequins. Through the missing bricks, you can see a banquet table with a candelabra crooked from water-falling wax. On the other side of the missing bricks is a tablecloth with faintly gray claw stains left by mourning doves. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table, heaving with indentations from apples, persimmons, cantaloupes, and pears. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a deer walking in the distance while a finger painting floats to the ground. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table with unopened telegrams and sturdy silver trays stacked with books about the Enlightenment. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a pebble garden placed on a tree branch next to a mortar and pestle. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table, lined along the bottom right edge with bowls of cold dandelion soup. Seated 45 degrees away from the banquet table is a man with salt and pepper wax mustache humming waltzes and complaining about the distortion of sounds and colors. 110 years old, and he doesn't know that electric blue can be beautiful too. called the Vatican Vaults. Shelves lined with caskets, ripe fruit piled up in baskets. Sugar cubes and teacups rattle as saucers are dragged across tablecloths. Outside, a crowd sits murmuring. A harmonium coughs discordantly off the spokes of a bicycle wheel, and snakeskin is carefully wrapped around palms. Two men each wear a veil, one off mauve, the other pink lady red. Gravel sits at the bottom of stained glass vials, and mink pelts are smoothed out over tiles. Three elderly spinsters raise their voices in praise, their weathered hands shaking at the sky. Gold medals tied around their waists reflect the sun directly into children's eyes. Four blind beggars fool the crowd into believing they're brothers who compete by tying knots in rope faster than any comers, the act only ending at dusk when they split their spoils. Stars roll around the moon, back and forth from end to end. Clouds erase them away when each new day begins. This is Investigating Mitsy. I think I said that I was going to do Investigating Mitsy, but I did Windy Sequins instead. Oh well, what are you going to do? This is also from the new book. I should do a plug. Right, the new book is called Apples and Ice Swimming Together in Soapy Water. It's on Scribd. You can also go to fluxlifeinc.com. It's under books. You'll see it. It's right there. Anyway, this is called Investigating Mitsy. She rides around the merry-go-round wearing satin slippers, chewing pink peppercorns. Her eyes are a miracle in the way they paint the names in the minds of the rain clouds. The lightning reaches out to introduce itself. The Queen of Atlantis draws filigree for the king while he's taking his bath. Bristling lips kiss the teeth of the key ring and lick ankles and math. She holds a bouquet of clarinets, wearing a lavender herringbone robe and nodding at buckets of soap. Her elbows hold her weight on the sand dune decorated with still-wet seashells and teacups half-filled with a treacle she pours onto tree roots. The Queen of Atlantis plans where the French and English will meet. The king eats suckling pig and excites the court over soaking his feet. This is from 1997. This is a poem called Autolife. It's dedicated to Phil, Buddy, John, Lou, Kurt, I guess. George, maybe. Probably not. It's called Autolife. I got paid for by someone else, put through the turnstile twice, barely caught the 12:35 train, always trying to get on free, trying to get a ride. Just ordered a drink and a frozen popsicle. Just thought of 4 new stories to tell my friends. Can't help but think about the summer and how the night drives will never end. You don't bother wasting yourself, and you don't waste my time. You've got your beauty secrets all locked up, and even when you're homeless, you still look divine. I'm just going to try to not think too hard and get myself all worked up, but the New York Funhouse is coming soon, and I can just feel my veins course with lust for the heat, for the midnights, and I don't want to get too excited, so I'm going to grab a cab and then give you a call, aimlessly wander for the next 4 nights until I crash into dawn. Out on the highway for another late drive, without any speed lanes or gas, talking on the car phone, tanked on endorphins, and loving the fact that life moves too fast. What are we doing out there? is another new one. This is called Parallel Place. Any second. I live in a parallel place where the land is level, where the streets are bright in the evenings, and I know what tomorrow brings. I live in a parallel place where the wind is cold, where gray-haired men sweep the bandshell and foxes sleep under church bells. I hear the lank-haired women walking in the morning, their faces shaped by the sun. I live in a parallel place where there's endless electricity with very low voltage, where everyone dies of old age. I live in a parallel place where rain runs into a tunnel, where able-bodied women clear the gutters and dragonflies rise in a slow-motion flutter. I see the able-bodied men hauling fallen branches, their faces shaded by the sun. I live in a parallel place where people speak in peace, where the foreman's spouse greets the mailman in a see-through blouse. I live in a parallel place where the forest faces east, where contracts are written in invisible ink and codes are created with a wink. I see all the people breathing through the day, their faces graced by the sun. Blissful cardinals, blissful infants, blue reflections magnified 10,000 times, blue beams bouncing off aged lenses, radiant artifacts, radiant heirlooms, white sails blistered by the salty sun, white china stacked in cupboards, shining domes, shining necklaces, green feelings balanced on a yardstick, green parchment weighted down by grapes. All right. And this is called Teleconverter. It's called Blue-Soaked Scepter. The kink in my neck that runs to my kidneys, distracting me from movies I've long since memorized, and repeating quotations I've lived inside of, and I've no desire to rewrite history that doesn't concern me. When what I didn't know already felt familiar, when I saw the inscription on my commemorative plaque had been worn back to smooth silver, when I slipped behind the mist, changed clothes, washed my hands, and shaved, with no light and with no intention of anyone seeing my face for a while, I was willingly walked through a coal-stained city lot and deposited in the backseat of an already running windowless army green car, which was then locked from the outside. Mary! Had I abandoned my practice, committed an indirect affront in my brief absence? My name is Keith. The beggar at my door raised his arm but soft while I listened to his parables that had no center. My name is Luke, with an auspicious mistress beside me. I looked at a baby looking out a window at fluttering street signs. My name is Julia. My temper was gentle when I read a sermon called, "Are You Here to Celebrate the Death of Death?" My name is Giles. I wish that I'd been obscured when my ears were bitten with endearment while I was plainly ignored. My name is Grace. I was observed by 3 people whose accounts proved suggestible and fractured. My name is Abigail. I faced hard construction when I in truth spoke forcefully about my forged fingerprints. My name is Morgan. I spent twilight emptied save for sketching a red tunic on bent paper. My name is Brooke. I was registered in a hotel under an assumed name and made lists of families that I pitied. My name is Gabriel. I singed my hair and clothes trying to be recalled. The sky has been moonless for 29 nights. Why couldn't I stay? I was bothered by the way the streetlights hit the trees and reflected off the leaves. I took a knife and short length of rope. 6 hours later, I'm waiting for you to arrive, carrying a scepter and wearing a breastplate with frayed shoulder blades and exhausted eyes. I'm waiting for you to arrive, sitting cross-legged on the sodden deck with wayward souls who were barely seen. I leapt off the ledge and was soon out of haunt as I climbed the concave shores, wondering if I should forage, catch a gudgeon, or eat unbruised fruit that had fallen. The gravelly, guttered soil gave way to encroaching forest, dense with rose, weighted with wet purple limbs that succumbed to gravity and wind. Then abruptly, I was in the center of a champaign, and the only objects I found were short rows of tree stumps and stones, each carved with the query, "What made you look here?" I jaunced away into the odd even and was again pursued by the thickets reached. The thorns licked my calves, the anthills shone like pebbled glass. I brushed past a frog with a violet tongue and discolored teeth, who gulped for relief while his body remained static like a splayed thread in aspic. I made my way into the antres and found myself prating, "Prithee, pray tell what you remember of working your hands into the mud and feeling a curl under your fingernails. It feels like a relic reunited with its original setting after having been figured lost or only seen in a dream." Betimes I glanced around for the traveling lamp while standing beside the curvature, hearing myself call the datelessly abandoned wizards and leasing and be faithfully young-eyed. I returned once more to the champaign and sat among the stones in silence. I received no visions or visitations, no inspiration to invent an incantation, and in this vacuum of communication, I only experienced the sense or perchance suggestion of the imposing press of eras and atmosphere. And now I noticed this restless weather, shy beams of sunlight moving sideways through the strings of remaining rain. All right, this is off out of the new book. This is called "Should I Go In?" And there's a line in here. The line is "I still love Phil." Who do you think I'm talking about? You know, he did what he did. Everyone knows that, and it's horrible. And there's no excuses or justification. But I also don't believe that that negates the action and beauty of his creation. I think both can be true, and one doesn't necessarily negate the other. Caravaggio murdered somebody. You know, extremely flawed people can do tremendous things. So I'll say that. I think it's sad that he had very, very serious early trauma in his life and never sought treatment. And instead he perpetuated the tragedy that happened to him out onto the world and caused true wreckage in people's lives. That's horrible. And, maybe that could have been avoided if he had made different decisions. I don't think it was fate, and I think that he could have. I think that he could have made better decisions, and it's the whole thing transcended records aside. The entire thing is a tragedy, and but I still love those transcendent records and always will. Anyway, this is called "Should I Go In?" The silver peppermill whispers to the hammer that she's an airport, and though she never really shows anybody, I still know she's an airport. If you stop at her coffee shop, she'll charge you extra for a plastic top. The Wellwater ice cubes have heard this before, but she's an airport. A zebra's chewing gum can confirm the reports that she's an airport. If you take your shoes off after the security stop, she'll throw them in the air and they'll land in the baggage cart. Run down the runway into the center of the day, where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story that you'll want to pass along someday. Run down the center of the runway into the center of the day, where the sun is pointing to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story you'll want to pass along someday. She's an airport, and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. She's an airport, and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. Every color candy. If I could talk to you, I will some more, and just like in today's world of opinion and denunciation and admirable like in pictures and friendliness and outward inliness, maybe I'm on the thrust of that. She dreamed she was a train draped in robin's egg lace. She couldn't keep still in one place. She dreamed she was the only train running on the 4th of July, filled with whipped cream to burst and streamers to fly. She dreamed she was a train running past the impound lot, and after every platform on the route she'd whisper, "I still love Phil." She was sad when they closed the gates at night. She dreamed she was a train filled with die-cast metal engines and cowboy hats, ordered by the civil rights worker's favorite daughter. She dreamed she was a train, her earrings flashing orange lights. She'd wave hello to the one car she'd stopped at the tiny suburban crossing, a train to get those tracks loose and rattling. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles talking over each other at her grandma's birthday. 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 How are we doing out there? Doing good? Beautiful. This is actually, we're not going to do that one just yet. This is cruelty-free heroin. You know, to draw a parallel with Jello Biafra, there was California over Alice, and then there was we've got a bigger problem now. I don't know that we have a bigger problem now. I certainly would never say that, but there are things that need to be addressed. There are a hell of a lot of grievances, and hopefully people face the prosecution for what they have done wrong, right? And that's all that we can hope for. We can hope that rule of law prevails by making people face what they have done. And, it doesn't end just because a term is over, right? This is cruelty-free heroin. When the Guardian goes mad, the sun rains against their eardrums, indistinguishable from Morse code tapping on a copper plate. Yes, when the Guardian has gone mad, they're found singing love songs to tanks, draping staircases and flags, breaking car windows to decorate their faces with the glass. When the Guardian goes mad, they're captured pushing a pickaxe into an LED screen and detained for threatening to throw snakes at gas station attendants. When the Guardian goes mad, people suddenly remember to turn on AM radio and patiently follow guidelines before filing a full report. Though there are always doubters and passers-by who start conspiracies, the usual being that this was somehow a planned distraction or a series of false flags. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll arrive at every awards ceremony with a mirror in hand and a ribbon under their chin and make demands to review the voting processes when they don't win. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll rue the day they lost control of their relationships, spending weeks hiring staff to bury paperwork they'll insist doesn't exist, and then skipping out on the bill, right, Rudy? If the Guardian goes mad, all their meals shall consist of orange peels pulled from chain link fences and burned coffee flavored with molded peach preserves. Though there are always doubters ready to offer an opinion of unverifiable proof, summarizing that death and maps are the only real measures of impact. Can you imagine being that fucking sick? If the Guardian cracks up, they'll spend bleak days envisioning trees committing suicide, grandmothers doing crystal meth for the first time, and gnats smeared into toothpaste. If the Guardian cracks up, 7 strangers stuck in a bank will claw at each other to seek cold air in the vault and wait for their families and firemen to arrive and dig them out. If the Guardian cracks up, Pirates will walk their own planks and devour themselves once they hit the water, thrashing back at their gnashing teeth, running the seas red until hunter and prey are finally one. Ignorance! Arrogance! The pest control man said unto me, when I was in Japan, I bought cherry bread in a can. I opened it with a knife and slit off the wrapper. The air bubbles stayed floating around in my mouth, and I rolled them around and around and around and around and around until I returned back to the West. Bliss, tolerance, the pest control man said unto me, sometimes my apartment building turns into a vending machine and I can deposit it out into the evening to provide goods and services for lucky couples with good taste and a few wandering dollars to rub together. This is another one from 97. It's called Microwave Blues. Why would you want to burn down your house and pretend it doesn't exist? The cliche about house and home, and neither one is your own. It's a waste of time to spend your life deconstructing why you're bored and you can't find the beauty in traffic signs, committing a felony when you just find out that your belongings have been repossessed. When what I heard what was said, I didn't even want a personality. It's even worse than reading Victorian erotica. Scrambled eggs for breakfast on the nonsense front page, enough to make a man one step past cynical, or at least weird enough to make his day job seem sensible. Why do you want to burn down your house, even though I've been told that you kiss like a blood clot? There's got to be something at the end of the night to keep you waking up the next morning. The lighted sign of Texaco and the plastic Jesus in the hallway. There's a moral to every story, even if you spend half your time figuring out what it is, an echo of light nearly blind. Somewhere in the back of your hindsight is an inkling of communication that says that you want to be in control, and of course there's nothing wrong with that, except if you get in anyone's way. Because you, like me or anyone else, doesn't mind criticism as long as they're being hailed as a genius, or by some kind of socialite they usually refer to as a friend. We are in the home stretch here, folks. This is from Salt or Light. It is called White Cello. Take the white envelope next to your right hand. Give it to me. Here, lick the seal and thank you. Talk to me. I'm in the open window. I'm not in time, but I've got your watch, and I need to learn to play this white cello. Scratch the surface. I'm on the shore with a can of sugar. It's never bitter. I'd really rather be playing, though, because I like the white strings and the white bow. That's not her. That's her, was the simplest thing you said today. I'm still reeling, with no moments except now. You don't possess any microscopes, so instead I will take the telescope. I'm trying to be angelic, which isn't easy after getting desensitized with disappointments every night, eating fresh vegetables, but planning, you already know, and then you talk me out of it. You don't have a pistol in your waistcoat, your teeth aren't flecked with flax seeds, my misjudgments are my own, and most are unknown, but just because I'm a pacifist doesn't mean I'll let any motherfucker abuse me. And speaking of myself, notice me! I'm standing next to the tree where the guy crashed the stolen car, then got out and ran for it, but I can behave for over 100 days, and I've squandered my efforts and so much goodwill that I sometimes still need to convince myself that I should try to learn to play it all, but I'm sure that you want me to, and I know what I can do. And with that, we're not missing anything. We're humming songs through the phone. We're midnight movers. We're holy rollers without a religion. And we're not. And don't be the guy on the bike in the right lane racing for his life against rush hour traffic in the morning. I know you are, and you know that I care, and I feel like I'm Clark Kent dressed in primary colors, and I just haven't taken off my glasses yet. She said to me, as long as it's not evil, and I said to her, I cannot be evil, certainly not right now, but it's the rising sun, it's the hard-boiled egg, it's basil, it's a blue charm. I just want to play the white cello. I just want to sit in a circle and think about it some more. So are we going to wrap this up, or are we going to test people's patience? No, I'm thinking out loud. loud. It's warm communication. See, that's what I'm talking about. So instead, I'm going to change some channels. Quarters, nickels, and all. Somebody this must be wearing a blue suit. Go to the slunts and cut off your slunts. It'll be like a reverse safari where they put lions, cheetahs, and tigers in a truck and drive them around and show them people shopping or walking down the street or pumping gas. It'll be the apex of manifestation. It won't be in the Bible, but it'll be like the Bible. It'll be a suburban safari where some guy named Greg gives you a little pith helmet and plastic binoculars, and you wait under the kitchen table for the cat to use the litter box. But why does it gotta be white? Never heard from before. Advertising space available. Clean, clear water. And of course, the tastiest tomatoes. And since we're in the mood and things are rolling along, we will do an old favorite, an old friend, if you will. Allison with a blue sea and icebergs are. She's ice cream, and there she's down the hall. She uses words like everything and all. I can hear her, but I can't make out her features. I know she spends her weekends in a cement cinema making notes. The girl next to her tries to see what she wrote. Allison wonders why the guy in the elevator keeps glancing at her and why the weather keeps jumping between rain and sun every 30 minutes. She keeps saying, quit asking me questions. I'm the one that's innocent. As people assume she's joking, Allison wonders, what are the windows thinking on a day with this white line down the center of the sky? Her mind cuts back to the guy in the elevator. Quick, look at me, look at you. We are equals. Allison wonders if she can keep hiding while knowing that they're following me. Allison writes, what started as hopes are now just observations, mostly about nature, and being young stops being fascinating once it's done. Allison looks down at her bowl of spinach, and her eyes focus down on the details of one leaf, and she quietly speaks. An atheist sees this and can only think of the mud that it grows from. Allison writes, we extend grace out of our own sense of grace, and smiles because she's not sure if that's something of her own or something that she's half remembering from 2 or 3 incarnations ago. Allison considers why her back and hands are so slippery when she's invisible, and then tells her sister, my tongue is a graffiti sponge. I wonder if I'll have to make love in front of a judge. Allison considers that she's a character who looks and acts exactly like her, then draws a bath with the lights off. Allison invites her guests to walk barefoot while cherries and red confetti float out of her phone. Allison considers emptying cash registers if security cameras lose power, but what she mostly wants are completely natural segues with no artificial blends. So with that, make thoughts your aim or nerve blaming when all meet with you at your beginnings, but make allowances for their worn out tools and make dreams a trap for fools after they are gone. And now we will wrap things up with one from the new book. It's beautiful. It's called Dance the Night Away. And dedicate this to, let's see, Mina, Nyan, Jungyan, Momo, Sui, Sana, Diane, who am I forgetting? Cheyoung, and did I say Sana? Well, or Geo? I missed a name in there. I apologize. Anyway, this is Dance the Night Away. A blue wave sprayed gently onto the window. It remained an unfaded crescent reaching over the rooftop. Birds flew through untethered. Droplets yawned in sonorous applause. The shape succumbed, giving way by matching passing movements, as when water splashes in the sky. A maypole stands unraveled, while a sunfish kisses a butterfly. The fences were then a canvas. Soaked tissue paper sprung over electrical wires. Fragile forktails, freshly shaven, as bronze tiger beetles glanced up at the heavens. Dance the night away! All right, and that, folks, is another exciting edition of the Quarantine Stream. Hope that you've enjoyed it. By the grace of God, we will be back next week. And by the grace of God, by next week, Rule of Law will be working. Wouldn't that be fun after the last 4 years? Anyway, don't forget, stay safe, especially right now. Stay smart and most importantly, stay free, because you already are. Yes. And we will have the theme song. All right, wonderful. All right. God bless everyone. Goodbye.